I'm wired differently and that's okay. I've only been diagnosed with ADHD very recently. Repurposing kind of dead time where you're trapped in scrolling reels and reels and reels. Kids will throw curveballs, find that kind of community element really inspiring. What really eventually killed my nano, 10 things that I learned from failing NaNoWriMo. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Bri, I write books, and I'm currently working on my first draft of my first ever novel, a speculative archaeological thriller, but I also love writing like in dark academia and fantasy, which is probably more my wheelhouse. You may or may not have seen already that I failed NaNoWriMo. I thought it would be good to have a little chat because I think it's a position that lots of us find ourselves in. It doesn't mean that it was time wasted, so let's have a little chat. So I guess first up, what do we mean by failure? Because I certainly don't regard the words that I got down and the fact that I didn't complete it as failure in terms of I'm a failure or my project is a failure. All I mean is that in a technical sense, if the goal is 50,000 words, which for me it was, I was aiming to add 50,000 words to my novel. I didn't do it, and I didn't add anywhere near that. You know what? I should have looked up before this video how many words I did add. I will insert it here. I did learn stuff along the way, but most importantly, I think the first thing to say is any words added is progress. And so if, like me, you didn't hit your goal or anywhere remotely close, I think we should still celebrate the wins. And also remember, like, Tolkien took 17 years to write The Lord of the Rings, okay? So I think there's a lot to be said for trying to set something that motivates us to like push and make a big rush forwards. But equally, speed isn't everything. And you know, Aesop's fables, you've got this like slow and steady wins the race. There's a lot to be said for that. It's been an intense year for me. I don't like to keep bringing this up because, you know, that's not what this channel is about, and I don't want to talk about it all over the internet, but it has been a tough year. I've suffered from 2 miscarriages. As part of healing and processing that, I kind of put myself through quite a lot of rigorous stuff as well in terms of 2 ultra marathons. I also ran a marathon before that, and I think I thought I was doing a good thing, but I've also put myself under a lot of pressure, and I'm excited to throw myself into the novel and finish my book for the first time. But equally, I am a mum and I'm juggling 2 kids, and I've had a lot happening, and you know, my mental health needs maintenance. So should we jump into the 10 things that I learned from failing NaNoWriMo? Let's have a look. I've got little notes here so that I remember all of them. So number 1, my ADHD brain thrives on novelty and not consistency. We need a bit of negative capability here. We need to hold like 2 separate ideas that contradict each other and both are true, because on the one hand, routine and consistency are actually sort of what keep me functioning, but equally, I've only been diagnosed with ADHD very recently as an adult at the age of 35, I think I was 34, and I'm learning about what that means and things that I just thought was a character flaw in me. I'm learning it's not, it's just I'm wired differently and that's okay. Basically, my sort of dopamine reward center and the way my brain wants to work, it's all about novelty. And so how do I marry those 2 things? How do I marry actually quite enjoying, trying to have some structure to keep me contained and keep me moving forward, but how do I get those dopamine hits? Because actually a week or 2 into NaNoWriMo, especially with juggling life and things being difficult and mental health and whatever, my ADHD brain is kind of going like, whatever, like I'm bored, what's the next thing? The excitement and the juice has kind of gone from this. It's really highlighted for me that I need to figure out how to work with my brain, and I don't 100% know what that looks like yet, because another thing that I loved about Nano was strengthening my daily writing habit. So how does that sit with novelty? I've seen A.K. Mulford talk about a way that she writes for her ADHD brain, which I thought was very cool. It's quite me, like I think, in the way that I do other parts of my life, but it's not very sustainable for the season of motherhood I'm in. She does a 30K in 3 days challenge, which gives your ADHD brain the exciting novelty of like, wow, big goal, let's do it. Kind of like Nano does, but sustaining that for people with ADHD over 30 days is quite tough. Whereas she says, you know, doing this huge sprint across 3 days and then, you know, that's it and you're done and you take some time. I think that works really well with my personality. You know, this is somebody who is like, I'm not going to go for a run today unless I'm going to run an ultra marathon. Like, that was a bit nuts of me, and maybe that kind of writing approach would work. The thing is, the reason routine and little and often have been such a big deal for me, it's because I have kids and I can't find big chunks of, I know she has children too, but obviously every parent's setup is different. My children are young, they are 5 and 2. And I don't have a lot of family around, I don't have a ton of childcare. Anyway, we're digressing, but I need to figure out how to marry this novelty and this routine thing. And at the moment, small steps daily, that feels the most achievable, but it doesn't sit well with the part of my brain that's craving this novelty and this dopamine. That was a very long-winded way of talking about that one. I hope that makes sense. Let me know if you're similar, like what works best for you. I know everyone works so differently, and it's really fascinating to kind of see how different brains work. The second thing I learned, which maybe sits a little bit at odds with what we just talked about, is that routine works better for me than strict number goals. Now, I think looking at the Nano words and being like, I need to get 1,667 words every single day kind of makes me freeze up a little bit. Sitting down and saying, I'm just gonna do like a 10-minute sprint, that worked really well for me. Big words pressure was hard. These are lessons that I'm trying to figure out how to implement into my creative practice. And if you're further along than me, please let me know. Number 3 is that small sessions have mattered more for my progress than like the big heroic ones. That is probably just because of how we're able to find me time to write, you know, when I have the kids, when I don't, that kind of thing. I think my longest writing sessions I did like, was it 1,000 words in a chunk? It was the small regular showing up. That's something to take away, isn't it? And in this season of life that I'm at, even if I can't find my ideal creative practice, I can still show up and do those small sessions and still move forward, even if it's not at the pace that I want to, like in my dreams I've been moving at. Number 4 is that writing while parenting, while mum lifing, requires flexibility and not rigidity. So I don't know if you have kids, I'm sure you have a ton of responsibilities other than kids if you don't. Basically, children are a very particular set of things, right? And all of our kids look different, all of our families and our setups and our support systems look different. But broadly speaking, even if you are a routine-driven family, kids will throw curveballs. We had sickness over NaNoWriMo, we had intense sleep deprivation. None of those things are a particularly good recipe for me for showing up my best creative self. And when you have kids in this season of them being young, you just need to roll with it. And that often means that my personal goals need to flex. And that it's not a question of just push through, just put it you can't do everything. It doesn't mean that my goal isn't important. It doesn't mean that I'm not pursuing it. I am, but I've had to learn to be okay with pressing pause, with giving myself grace. And I think all of us can learn from that. Like, even if it's not children, you might have a corporate job. When I was a lawyer, it was really, really common that I'd be so excited to be nearly done for the day and leave the office, and you get an email and all of a sudden you're going to be in the office until 3 a.m. and that's just how it is. And whatever that looks like for you, it might be something else. All of us have stuff that comes at us, and I think it's easy to get caught up in the rhetoric of you can write, you will write, and sometimes we just need to take the guilt out of it. Life happens, we can write later. Number 5 is that rest is part of the process, it's not the enemy. I think with all the other stuff going on in our lives, we need to be better at knowing when we need and want to rest and taking that guilt-free. I get that, especially those sort of more naturally type A of us can kind of be like, am I just being lazy? Am I just being lazy? And there's some discernment required, right? As to whether we're being lazy or whether we actually need rest. But you know what? Sometimes maybe it's even okay to be lazy, and Rest definitely helps me top up my creative well. I think the key though is quality rest, and not you're kind of calling it rest, but actually you're in a scroll hole. I will talk about this separately, I think, as quitting social media for the time being. I think repurposing kind of dead time where you're trapped in scrolling reels and reels and reels, and doing something more. I've finished so many books, I've done more writing. It doesn't have to be about productivity. Literally just got to like take a bath and read a book instead of scrolling on Instagram. That is proper rest. Whereas like sending my friends 100 reels is not actually refilling my creative well and giving me rest. Number 6 is that momentum is nice, but clarity for me is so much better. So what really eventually killed my nano and kind of, I guess, caused me to give up was I had all of this stuff that was making it difficult to persevere, but I was carrying on, and then I hit this point where my outline became much less clear. I didn't know what was going to happen. I introduced a character that I hadn't been sure if I was going to, and then they're there and I suddenly don't know what the hell is going on. And I apparently am not a pantser. I can't power through that with momentum. I need clarity as to what I'm meant to be writing next, and I've basically had to pause the writing because I have some plot stuff to iron out before I can carry on. Now let me know if you are like the opposite, because I am fascinated by your brain. If you can just like free write your way through a first draft, like love that for you. But for me, I need like the clarity of knowing what's coming. Number 7, accountability really works for me, but pressure doesn't. And I guess we're all different in where that line kind of blurs, because you're spending time that you could be writing, making videos and chatting to a bunch of people who you haven't met. But for me, it's actually been really nice to have a community who are invested in the same things as me. Like, you know, my friends in real life aren't actually big readers and they're not writers. And so having like a group of people, even though we don't know each other sort of face to face, having somewhere where like it's an engaged community on the same topic, and I feel like I kind of have put these goals out there and we're all kind of keeping each other accountable. I find that kind of community element really inspiring, and so that accountability is lovely. The pressure of a certain number of words hanging over me, maybe not so much. And number 8 is that I don't fail when I'm writing slowly or not hitting certain numbers. I fail when I stop completely, and I did do that, ran out of steam and my outline got muddy, and so I just wasn't able to carry on. But that stopping is what caused me to fail nano, right? You can't hit a goal if you can't keep putting into it, and I just stopped. When I was writing slowly and hitting subpar word counts, I was still progressing and I was still moving forward, and that was really great, and I'm still celebrating that. Although we're calling this like a nano failure because technically I didn't hit my words, I still regard actually the writing I got done as a success. It still moved me nearer to the end of my book. Number 9 is my creativity. I need quiet moments. I'm not a constant output person. I can't just churn and churn and churn. Some of my best ideas and like ways to frame things just came like in the moments where I wasn't writing. It's one of the tensions of creativity and being a parent, I think, is often I actually am struck with the inspiration and I can't go and write it down because I have to do a million things for the kids in that moment. But a lot of it kind of came when I was hanging out with them, or, you know, even just like the cliche, having a shower. But basically when I'm not writing, yeah, that's when the kind of creative stuff came. So I think like this idea of massive output is good in theory, but it's not always how like creativity works, right? And then the final thing that I think I've learned from this entire process, my writing pace, and that's not a fixed thing, by the way, my writing pace at whatever time is my writing pace, and it will still lead to a finished book. I will get there if I keep writing and keep showing up, and maybe that looks like a big sprint and then a big break. Maybe that looks like me chipping away 100 words at a time, or somewhere in the middle, or a mix of the two. I don't know what that is going to be yet, but I know that I will stop completely when I am done, and that is not yet. So my failing nano might have been a pause, but it is not a stop. And if you're in a similar position, I think We just need to acknowledge that we need time to regroup sometimes, and we can carry on. Our writing pace doesn't have to look the way that everyone else's writing pace looks. So I'd love to hear any lessons that you learned from your nano experience, whether you absolutely smashed it or whether you failed in inverted commas. I'd love for you to try and reframe it as a success if you're feeling bad about it, because I think we just don't need the guilt of beating ourselves up about something that didn't go the way we expected. I feel like there are no failures, right? It sounds cheesy, but I think there are only lessons, and I've learned a lot from doing this. So I'm really glad I did it, and I'm glad even that I didn't hit the goal, because hopefully it's going to make me a better writer and understand more about how to work with my quirky brain. So thank you so much for watching. If you are looking for a bit of like cozy inspiration, then check out my Tolkien writing routine video, which I will link below for you. I had so much fun making that video, so I will see you there. See you next time.